Okay, hello fellas. So today we want to just talk about the brachial plexus, but strictly I'll be talking about how to draw the brachial plexus. Okay, how can you draw the brachial plexus? Okay, so let's be quick. So the brachial plexus comes from the spinal cord. I think by now you know that the central nervous system is made up of a brain, right? So you have a brain and you have a spinal cord. Okay, so you have a brain and the spinal cord and the spinal canal, right? So the spinal cord is divided into different segments. So you have the cervical segment in the neck and the thoracic segment behind the chest and the lumbar segment within behind the abdomen. Okay, so of interest today we're going to talk about the brachial plexus. So we're talking about the cervical spinal cord, or the cervical part of the spinal cord. Okay. So just something that you need to understand about the spinal cord. We will talk about the spinal cord in detail in neuroanatomy. You can watch my videos of the spinal cord in neuroanatomy. But now I would like to talk about this one, which is basically a little insight on the spinal cord. Okay, so if this is my spinal cord here, so I'd like to draw the spinal cord. Just a little part. Okay, so this is your gray matter, right? And this is your white matter. Okay, this is full of axons. White matter. Okay, so the spinal cord, it has, the anterior horn, posterior horns. Anyway, from this part, these are called the anterior rootlets. So this is anterior, this is posterior, this is anterior rootlets. This is the posterior rootlets. So they're rooting from the spinal cord. Okay? And what you need to understand is that the anterior rootlets are motor. So generally motor, they cause movement of muscles, right? The posterior rootlets are basically sensory. Okay? So I'll put my motor in red. Okay? So the anterior rootlets are motor. So they get out. So they're motor, right? Okay? And I'll put these ones in blue, right? So the sensory is in blue, right? So this one is going to the brain, okay, like that, okay? So they will combine, right? They'll combine here, and they will form a spinal nerve. So spinal nerve now has both sensory and motor, okay? Spinal nerve is both sensory and motor. Okay, this spinal nerve may be, let's say this is level C4 or C5. Okay, so let's say this is level C5. Okay, so this is called spinal nerve C5. Okay, the spinal nerve at C5. Okay, so it will ramify. So the word ramify, that's to divide, to spread. Okay, so it will ramify into, so each sensory, so the sensory will ramify into a posterior rami and anterior rami. You can call them ventral rami. Okay, now I think you know the word ventral, anterior, posterior, dorsal, right? So like that, and then you have the posterior rami as well for motor, then anterior rami for like that. Okay, so these are the rami. Okay, so these are the roots. Okay, this was the spinal nerve, right? That was the spinal nerve, which ramify, right? Hey, into an anterior rami, and a posterior rami. Okay, a posterior rami. Okay, right? So the posterior rami is going to supply muscles of the back and skin at the back. So muscles of the back in red and then skin at the back in blue, right? And then the anterior rami, right, which is larger. Okay, so the anterior rami is larger than the posterior rami. This is going to supply muscles of your limbs, okay, muscles of the anterior abdominal wall, right? So it's large, okay? So it has both motor and sensory. It is both motor and sensory, okay? So much of the nerves that we talk about in anatomy, we'll be talking about the anterior rami, okay? So what I want you to know is that the brachial plexus is made of from the spinal nerves C5, C6, C7, C8, and T1, right? And these spinal nerves, right, will be giving the anterior rami. So the anterior rami of C5, C6, C7, C8, and T1 are the ones which form the brachial plexus, okay? But sometimes the brachial plexus can get from C4, that's called a prefixed brachial plexus. So when we get from C4, we call that a prefixed brachial plexus. That's called a prefixed brachial plexus. Sometimes we can have T2, all right, contributing. That's called a post-fixed brachial plexus. So again, called post-fixed brachial plexus. Okay, so the prefixed, the post-fixed brachial plexus. Okay, but anyway, normally the brachial plexus is from C5, C6, C7, C8, and then T1. And I said this is the anterior rami. Are we together, right? So anyway, what I was saying with the spinal cord level C5, it is the posterior horns and then the anterior horns, right? And then with the anterior root plates and the posterior root plates, so the posterior root plates are sensory, the anterior root plates are motor, they combine, they form a spinal nerve, the combination, and then it then ramify into an anterior rami, which is bigger than the posterior rami. And the plexus that we're going to talk about, the brachial plexus, is formed from the anterior rami, all right?